Hi, everybody. It's Lessa Lamb with the Sexy Life Summit. I'm here today with Dr. Ray Doctor, whose name always makes me giggle a little bit. Um, Hi, Ray. How you doing today?
Hi, how you doing? We both have been running into some technical stuff. So if you hear voices go somewhere else, and you see this like little robots like ghostly going this way,
Yeah,
it's
right.
because of that.
Totally. So we'll get to the life transitions part of this. Of course, in the Sexy Life Summit, we're talking about life transitions in this one, and there's just so much that goes into sexuality. I wonder if you could tell us you've got a couple of things that you want to talk about: healthy sexuality and why it's the glue that keeps relationships together.
Well, if you think about this moment, that actually healthy sexuality, it betters our moods, our health. And because of that, that obviously is going to affect relationships. I mean, healthy sexuality, it helps with migraine relief, which is interesting how women say, "Not now, I have a headache," and the reality is that it actually can relieve that. All right, it promotes regular menstrual cycles, lighter periods, better memory, pain relief, better bladder control. People have fewer colds and the flu, reduce stress, increase DHEA, which is the youth hormone, and the list kind of goes on. So if you think about that for a moment, is that with sexuality and having that in a relationship, that it's going to make a person feel better, and when you feel better about yourself, it definitely improves the relationship. And so imagine it being kind of the ingredient that actually brings fun and light and love and well-being to the relationship. And it's one thing that while you can take care of yourself, I mean, masturbate, when you have a partner and you have the exchange of yin and yang, which creates electricity in the body, that is probably the most powerful healing medicine on the planet.
Mm. Yeah,
Yes.
I really support that idea of having a great way to have that exchange of energy with a partner. And of course, yeah, there are absolutely ways that you can, not to discount people who are single, there's a lot of single people in my crowd, and there's definitely ways of getting that exchange. Like, when we're at work, we're often in a masculine sort of mindset. When we're at home, we're often in a more feminine or a more open mindset, of where we are in our bodies. But to be able to have that exchange with a partnership is really fulfilling.
You mentioned that, you can be single, sexuality does create, it bonds us together, and the happiest people, and there's something to, people who hear this who are single might go, oh, but this is actual
Mhm.
study they've done, and that is that the happiest people, in this one study were married people who had on average 30% more sex than single folks. So, um, but there's something I have to say about that, and that's also based on that off of maybe a scientific way of seeing that experience. There's also this thing called superior sex. So if you're connected to your body, whether you're masturbating or you're in a bathtub, connecting to your body, the way that you connect to yourself can actually energize you also. Meaning, like, for example, I'm a man, and of course, and um, one of the reasons why I moved to the beach, which is interesting, is that I remember I went on 3 dates, and for whatever reason, the 3 dates were all of them wanted to meet me on the beach. They were girls on the west side, and I was on the east side. And each date, I felt like, man, I really feel connected to this woman. Like, wow, what's this energy?
It's
And then
beach.
funny, yeah, what ended up happening, I, I was about to go on a fourth date.
Mhm.
Same thing out on the beach. She didn't show up, but I went out to the beach,
Fascinating.
and I went, holy crap! It's the beach.
I just feel
It's the
great.
swim energy. Like it
Yeah.
felt like it was matching with my energy, and at that time,
Yeah.
that's like for healing. I was going through a divorce.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
It was very nurturing. So, it's it doesn't matter. We can get our sexuality or that energy from other sources, including food.
Absolutely. That's a really good point too. And where that sexual energy is coming from isn't always like I actually really like that for the idea that your sexual energy doesn't come from your partner. And that we can self-generate sexual energy, and that we're not reliant on our partner to bring us or serve us some sex. I think that that's really important, especially in long-term partnerships where a lot of people are saying, well, this is how we do it, this is where my sexuality needs to come from, and it's this person over here, I have to get these needs met here. And I think it's really important for people in monogamous relationships to realize there are other ways to get to generate sexual energy that isn't just with your partner, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
I
That's
think
great.
I think see, and that's the thing about this is my theory as far as debunking that study that they did is that maybe they measured people who were not aware of this. So a lot of people who, if they're not in a relationship, they just kind of disconnect themselves from that because it either brings sadness,
Mm,
maybe shame, or they don't know how to pleasure themselves in ways that has nothing to do with, say, touching your genitals.
sure.
There's
Right.
ways to connect into life that energize you.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I like that idea of like feeling the flow and the energy of life, in a way that enlivens you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
That
Yes.
may be connected to that libidinous energy, but it doesn't have to be super sexualized or orgasmic or necessarily like in that sphere. Good
Now
point.
you mentioned about life transitions that this actually leads to part of that also, and that is
Hmm.
if your spouse has died, or has left after many years. One of the reasons why I feel as though people die is because they shut off that energy, that life force. And so
Yeah.
if you are, like, for example, my mother is 81, and, I asked her about, like, what would happen when dad dies, what would you do? And she said, it was like a bizarre question to her because she said, "Oh, I'm moving with my girlfriends at this retirement home where there's all these other Japanese ladies, and
Uh-huh.
she wants to do karaoke still, and she's still
Yeah.
living life. She has a lot of
Yeah.
life force energy. She has a lot of sexual energy, even though they
That's
don't
great.
have intercourse. So
Right.
it's like
That's great.
that. So whether if you're in a long-term relationship, if your partner passed away or you break apart, is
Sure.
that you have to have that energy, you know, you have to still continue to self-cultivate that energy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's wonderful. I mean, I'm excited to hear about your mom at 80 still like being vibrant and having a wonderful life. And
If you
that's
saw what she looks like, you'd go, "Oh my God."
she's not
Yes,
80. Yeah, no.
she is. No, she goes to the gym 4 times a week.
That's great.
She's really pretty.
Yeah.
Uh, is a performer. She sings on stage.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's
You know,
great.
yeah,
How cool.
it's interesting because the mother of my child is only 54. She's a real young like grandmother, and she doesn't do half the things that my mother does. And I remember Ashley, the mother of my child, she's like, "Is your mom home?" Like, "Oh no, she drove to L.A. and she's doing this with her friends." She starts laughing. She says, "Your mom just blows me away." She's like
Yeah.
81 and just, "I'm gonna just go
Yeah,
hang out with my friends,"
totally.
and
That's
it's a
cool.
far drive.
Yeah.
It's a 70 miles for her, and she's like, she's gonna do it.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I think that you bring up a really good point with your mom, just saying like you can have a vibrant sexual energy in your life still, even if you're not having like directly having intercourse or if you're not feeding that in a very specifically sexual way, you can still have that life force and that life flow energy. That's great. I think that's really brilliant.
Yes.
How does healthy sexuality influence finances? Oh my gosh, what a great question. How does healthy sexuality influence finances, passion, and drive? And why would that be so important? I mean, I can think of a million reasons why that's important. So tell me what
Well,
yours are.
I mean, one of the biggest reasons people split up or argue is finances, okay? And so, and so think of sexual energy being in your second chakra, which is right there below your belly. That's also where passion, creativity, and emotions stem from. And so, in other words, if a person lacks passion or creativity, there's a good chance they also lack libido. Also, if a person lacks that passion, they might also lack drive. Just see how that would play out in a relationship. So, a man who has drive is typically more attractive to a woman.
True.
And
Very true.
so if he's not energized there, connected to that, through either them literally making love or just him being energetically connected to their himself, then there's not going to be that sexual polarity. And also a woman who's more passionate, creative is more attractive to a man. And so, just example, my mom, even if she is not going out there with a push-up bra and shaking
Right.
her ass, well, for an older lady, my mom has vibrant sexual energy. So that
Yeah.
is the example,
Totally.
okay?
Yeah.
It's interesting too is that, people who have regular sex or have that connection, miss less work,
Ah, also true.
less sick days. And so if you think about that for a moment is, all of this is about talking about healthy sexuality and relationships. And so you can see how they kind of coincide with each other to kind of create this foundation for better health, for better wellness, which means, your career, finances, your dreams and goals and so forth. They all work together.
I think I talked with another expert about how sexuality is the ultimate creative force, because you're literally, the act of sexuality is the ultimate creative act, because you're creating life. And that's like bringing that kind of energy into your life. It's not necessarily about the sex, it's about the creativity. And I really see you saying that, and like, you can be vibrantly creative, and that accesses that sexual self, but it doesn't have to do with intercourse. And I think that's beautiful. And it does, it
Yeah.
affects every area of your life, finances and passion and, daily life too. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, it's a. I'll share this. I mean, so I don't know if you knew this. I forgot even when did I have a child when the last time we had spoken?
I
Did I
don't
say
remember. I
how
don't
long ago
think
was
so.
it?
Was it about 7 months ago, 8 months?
I did, but I probably didn't bring it up. Okay,
No,
so
maybe not.
so I didn't have a child the typical way. I mean, I still had intercourse, obviously, and
Right.
unsafe sex. I had the child,
Sure.
but the child, my boy was 6 months old, already
Oh, I
six
see.
months old, when a woman said, "You're a daddy."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So in that period, I went to survival mode because here I wanted, I was excited, had to change my life around, and all my passion and energy went into building, creating things for him, and just this new lifestyle. All my energy was being pushed out towards that. I had no libido.
Wow.
And it wasn't a bad thing. It was where all that creative force is going towards this other area. It
Sure.
was the one
Sure.
part. It was 9 months for me to where I was like going. I wasn't. I was kind of interested, but not really. Like something was more important. So all my passion, all my energy was going there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. That's so fascinating to me, because it said you said it was sort of 9 months into your child's life, or even
that's why
even
it
it
takes.
was maybe even a year. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it's that. That's funny. It was 9 months when I finally got settled into knowing him, as we're super close. He's more of a daddy's boy now.
Yeah.
But it took 9 months to adjust to all this, and I think that's the reason why
The
nature set up
gestation.
as these this a couple when if you have a if you're in a relationship, you have 9 months to figure it out.
Yeah.
9 months to adjust to that. I mean, I was also taught that there's a reason for that for you to prepare. I wasn't prepared, so when I found out, I still needed 9 months to
You
prepare.
still, yeah, that's
Yeah.
so interesting and really fascinating. I really love that idea that even as the non-gestating partner, you still need time to prepare your life, prepare your body, even prepare your mental state to welcome that child into your life. That's so
Yeah.
interesting, especially since he was already 6 months old when you found out he existed.
Yeah. Well, women think, everything's happening to me. I
Sure,
have to
sure.
adjust. But no, men have to adjust
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I've heard that a lot recently too, about it's equally important for the father to have gestation period time. Like that time is still equally important for the non-gestating partner. So
Yes.
yeah, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate your story. It's fascinating. I want to get a little bit into, you have another question on here. How does healthy sexuality positively influence the brain? And brain chemicals are so fascinating to me. Tell me about brain chemistry.
And one thing I hope that you get from all this, and everyone watching this, is that again, when we keep both of us talking about healthy sexuality, we're talking about maybe even self-cultivation. And
Absolutely.
so, and also that, in relationships, when two people are able to nourish each other, they're able to get there. But also, I also know with single people, if they're conscious of that, they can also get there also. So, healthy, in a way to look at this is healthy sexuality promotes healthy relationships. Healthy relationships promote healthier brain functions. And I'll just give you some examples. So, the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, and say healthy relationships. You have a tendency to be able to be goal oriented. You display goal oriented behavior. You're able to self regulate. If you don't have a healthy relationship sexually or in a relationship, there's no forethought, lack of empathy and attunement.
Mm.
That something happens. There's another part of the brain that's right behind the PFC, which is the anterior cingulate gyrus. It's a
Mm.
mouthful. It's ACG,
Hmm.
and this, if it's healthy, you're flexible, able to shift attention to easily. You're adaptable. You see options. If it's not healthy, you get stuck in thoughts. This is a
Hmm.
person who might hold grudges, hold on to the past, inflexible. Just be aware. This is like neuroscience.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then one more important part is a deep limbic system, and that is in a healthy, positive relationship. You're able to. This is kind of a trip. Is you're able to. This part of the brain controls appetite and cycles of the body, bonding, social connectedness, um, also sense of smell, sense of sleep and appetite, and so forth. So just imagine this for a moment. If this part is disrupted, this is probably the reason why people emotionally eat.
Yeah. Oh,
This is
totally.
also when people go into depression or maybe not eat. And so when you have that connection, whether it's with your sexuality in a healthy way or you have that in a relationship or both, it creates a healthy brain function.
Mm.
Literally, it's so funny is that I've had women report to me, and I'm not going to say, oh my God, I've just had very basic, them saying is that when we make love, I sleep better.
Mm. Hmm.
When I've heard women say, when we've made love, I somehow have less cramping,
Mm.
my body,
Hmm.
all these different things. It's like, wow, I sleep better. All these different things.
Hmm. That's
So,
really fascinating. I like that that angle of like it's actually well because releasing sexually, releasing orgasmically releases all sorts of brain chemicals in your head, like serotonin, endorphins, epinephrine, all of these pain relieving chemicals too. And so your concept of like yes, actually, if you have a headache, you should have an orgasm. That would be a great idea. It would probably relieve your headache. In most cases, that's
mhm.
largely true. Um, I personally find that that's actually true most of the time, except for this very specific area of my cycle where it actually makes my headache worse, which sucks. But anyway, so yeah, that if you're struggling with something that like if you're depressed or if you're feeling down or if you're feeling low, the best remedy, the best course of action is actually go have an orgasm because it'll release all those chemicals in your brain and you'll feel uplifted and you'll start to see the possibility in your situation. You'll start to think more creatively because that creative energy creates those creative chemicals in your brain and all of those things start shifting and I really love that and it's so
Yeah.
true what you're talking about, the limbic system, the amygdala, all of those, the prefrontal cortex, all these various very subtle parts of your brain that work in harmony, and if they're out of sync or if the chemistry is off somehow, it can really start to affect your whole being, not
Mhm.
just your sex life.
Yeah. It's and if a person is sick, and the way that Dallas Masters or Chinese uh, doctors they would typically prescribe that that person who's sick is not the giver, that
Mm.
that person is in that receptive yin position, and that would mean that the partner might do something with that person, and
Right.
therefore it still creates that electrical charge to promote healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if even if a person's saying, I'm really tired, I don't feel that well, don't deprive yourself from allowing someone to blow in your ear and pet you. There's
Mm.
ways to connect to sexuality that doesn't have to do with full-blown intercourse, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and burning calories. There's other ways to do it. And if you're not in a relationship, the same thing. It's where you might be feeling awful. That's why you feel so great when you get a massage.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you feel great when you do something that really connects you to your own nature and is creating that arc of energy because we are electrical beings. There's a negative and positive pole within us, and that things, food, create electrical frequencies in our body that, work on us on a cellular level. And that's the most healing medicine on this planet.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. That's
Yes.
really brilliant. I really loved what you said about if you're in some sort of scarcity or if something's going wrong for you and you feel just drained or depleted, that that means you're the receiver. Like even if you're not technically ill, like with an illness or a flu or a virus or a bacterial infection or something like that, if you're not ill but you're just drained and depleted, that your partner says, "Hey, I'd really like to have some sexuality with you," that that saying, "I'm not in a place to give, but I'd really love to receive," could be a really
Hmm.
beautiful experience. And it could really be generative for that kind of energy. I really love that idea. It's just, and I think that it's going to be really hard for people to say, I really would love to have a sexual experience with you, or I'd really love to have that, but I'm not feeling it right now. I'm feeling really drained and down. Can I receive? How would you recommend asking for that?
Well, the thing is that, sending this video,
Yeah, totally.
I mean, a big part of this is sometimes people probably hear this stuff and they're thinking, oh man, like I want so and so to watch this. Well, then send it.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
thing is that's conversation starts before you're sick. And what I mean by that is, this starts with where, this kind of leads into, the other thing we might talk about, which is, how do couples remain sexual throughout a relationship? And so, this whole conversation, this whole sustaining a healthy relationship, a sexual relationship, starts with you. And so, if you have a healthy connection to yourself, your needs, and so forth, um, then you're going to be able to communicate that from the beginning. It's not where you're not showing up in a relationship from scarcity and saying you're not creating stories with your partner saying, "Oh, I don't want tonight because of this lame excuse,"
Hmm.
or where if really you're angry at your partner, you will communicate that. Right now, I'm not feeling it here. In order for me to move into my heart, into my vagina or my penis, we need to have this conversation.
Hmm.
And that's what happens. It's not like if
So
I
true.
were argument, like I could just jump right into it. Energy and blood flow somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's this that it has to be where it's this whole life. This is a lifestyle. This is the
Yeah.
way that where you start. You start maybe going to classes, to go to tantra classes, read books, educate yourself. Because what's going to happen is that, and even if your partner is not into it, it's not about what he or she is into. It's about what really, fills your heart and sounds right to you. Because you're going to bring that into the relationship anyway. And if it feels good to the partner, if you're demonstrating that with your energy, if you're showing up a certain way, they're going to catch on, and they
Yeah.
know that they're going to have to do something. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
definitely.
So, it's that. It's people have to. It's your sexuality is your life force. And again, you have. I think it's so important. People need to be exercising, eating more energetic food. Food's not
Yeah,
that's not dead. I'm not saying be raw. I'm
definitely.
just saying that definitely processed food and just unhealthy food clogs the system. Um, do things
I
that are
really think
energetic.
that's so important.
Yeah, things that you do that are energetic. Honestly, it could be anywhere from someone doing yoga to you having a good time bowling with your friends.
Hmm.
You
Totally.
know what I mean? None of
Yeah,
this
well,
has.
energetic practice doesn't have to be like some spiritual meditative thing where you sit for 10 minutes and think about God. It can be like a spiritually fulfilling practice like social activity.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And do things that are typically look like male things to do. Like the one thing that, like for example, you definitely are not going to charge your body by watching TV.
No,
And
agree with that.
while you might get excited by watching your favorite team score a touchdown, you're still, it's still something outside of yourself. Like for
Exactly.
me, I would say if you really like football that much, you go throw a Nerf.
Go play
You
some.
know,
Yeah.
just get out there and play. You know, be rather than being a spectator, be a participant in life. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that concept. I really do. That's such a great concept. It's very present in the Burning Man community that I'm a part of, where they used to say that Burning Man was for participants only. That they don't want spectators there. They don't want people to just come and like, oh, look at the Burning Man show. And it's very much like that. I see a lot more people living with that sort of purposeful intention of not being a spectator of your own life and watching it sort of pass you by, or sort of watching what goes on outside of you, but actually creating your life and being intentional about it and going out and doing the things you love and having that creative generative energy, that passion.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and you talked a little bit about remaining sexual throughout your relationships. So you just touched on it briefly. Let's delve into that a little bit further.
Well, again, it's kind of what I just shared already this very moment, and it's a lifestyle. It's doing all these things. if your partner were to, again, I mentioned this earlier, were to pass away or you would end the relationship, you can be nourished by yin, the feminine, by the ocean or massage. If you are a woman and you desire masculine presence, that's what really charges you. You can go walking and sit on a rock and connect to that really uh, deep, warm rock that's connected to Earth and be, connected to Earth energy and be charged.
Hmm.
There's so many ways of doing it. You can also go out with your gay male friend who's masculine and handsome, and you're just a friend, and yet that exchange
Sure.
will connect you to the
That masculine
sexual
energy.
polarity that I'm talking about. Sexual polarity is not something where it gets you excited and you have sex. It's to
Sure.
continue to charge yourself up. You know,
Got it.
and that is why why people when they go through breakups they could do different things. Like all of a sudden they start writing songs. They're connected to that sexual, the second chakra I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And they start feeling that energy. Sometimes people with women often do this. This is crazy because they're desiring. Two reasons I feel. And that is one, they're trying to get away from feeling emotional, so they move into left brain and they'll go back to school. They'll
True.
get really serious with their career
Yeah.
and so
They're
forth. They
really
go in that
focused.
masking mode to balance themselves out
Right.
energetically.
Hmm.
Yes. So yeah, it's there's ways of charging yourself up.
I liked that was sort of a generalized how can you remain sexual throughout your life as opposed to being in a couple and remaining sexual in your coupledom. You're talking about feeding yourself. And I think that people who are looking at how can I feed myself psycho emotionally, spiritually, all these things, if I'm feeding myself emotionally and spiritually, and then that will contribute positively to me feeding my relationship sexually and emotionally as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're coupled or if you're single, either way, it's still super important to be connected in your own body and in your own self practices with however it is you recharge. And if that's in a social situation, going bowling with your friends or, like going dancing or whatever it is, it doesn't have to be with your partner all the time. And if you can share those things with your partner, how awesome. But maybe your partner's more of an introvert and you're more of an extrovert, which, I'll raise my hand on that one. I've dated some introverts and I am obviously not an introvert.
Hmm.
But, you have to just balance that out and just say, I'm going to do this thing that I love right now. And I'm going to connect with you later when I'm in this energy of being so excited and having so much wonderful love and sexuality in my space. And I'm going to bring that home and share it with you. So I think that's great.
Well, the reality is that my mother is this way I mentioned, and my father's a little bit different. I find my father to be, I don't know if I want to say lazy, he just never learned how to
Hmm.
get out and do things,
Hmm.
but she doesn't, wait around.
Sure.
She's not waiting around for him to die. I mean,
Right.
she's not waiting, for him to show up and all suddenly being to exercise like she is. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? She's living her life and it
Yeah.
shows in her body.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's really fascinating. I like that, she's kind of doing her own thing and just saying, you know what, I'm going to live my life. If you care to join me in any of these things, you're welcome to. And he's like, no, not so much. And she's like, all right, cool. Yeah. So, and I mean, it sounds like there's a little bit of like differences in how their health is showing up in their lifestyle as well.
Yeah, the reality is that he's 90 and she's 81,
Ah,
so even though
it's
he's doing
aged.
it differently, something's working.
Sure, totally. He's 90. He's still hanging out. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. I really love that what we've talked about today. We used to just sort of give a recap for a little bit. We talked about how your brain chemistry is involved in that, and how it's really important that you're feeding your body, your physical body, but also your spiritual body and your emotional body too, by doing healthy self care practices and just really getting um, your own healthy on, if you will, getting your lifestyle aligned with what it is you want out of your sexuality, and that the two things are cyclical and they feed each other. Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much for being on the program with us today.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's not so much stuff you have to edit. This is a good conversation. Periodically, I was hearing you kind of uh, fade in and out, but
Yeah.
hopefully people get the gist of
That'll be
it.
good. I think it's great. I mean, yeah, no, I think that the video feed went well this time, and I'm grateful for that. So that's great. Was there anything that you wanted to offer the watchers and listeners today like any tidbits that you want to share with them, like a download or something like that?
Oh yeah, I do have a URL. I don't know. I did this last time. I don't know if it's maybe down below or it's going to send an email
It's going to be
or
down
whatever.
below. Yep, totally.
Down below. Okay. So with that link, this is there's actually some exercises in here that actually connect to what I'm talking about, which
Nice,
helps you be the most irresistible person in the room. And
nice.
there's one exercise that's called I call how to love out loud, and it's just a way to just connect to your vibrant energy. It's for both men and women. Getting to I do is another exercise I get into, and it really gets into just knowing who you are. It's a kind of fun process. Also, there's an exercise or a way of kind of approaching life and keeping your partner coming back.
Hmm.
And it's something you probably never heard about, but it connects to this kind of how my father is still attracted to my mother. It kind of talks about
Nice.
what she's done in her life to create that. And also another exercise I think in there, it's called relaxing into love. And if you think about this for a moment, people are really stressed out about love. People are
Yeah,
stressed out about, oh my God,
I have to
I
do the thing right, otherwise I won't have it. Yeah.
yeah, so it's about relaxing into love because love is an experience. It's not something you get outside yourself. It's a it's your awareness to that which exists already.
Nice. That's great. I love that. So that's super exciting. So, Dr. Ray, or is it raydoctor.com?
Well, my website is raydoctor.com, which is RAYDOKTOR.com. That's really my last name.
That'll be linked. Yeah, it
Yeah,
really is.
I don't know what the link you're going to have, but it'll have
Sure.
a forward slash something on
Yep.
there.
Totally. And
Cool.
then I'll put the link that you send me for whatever this downloadable gift that you're sending. I'll put that below the video, and so you guys can just go and click down there, and just it'll take you straight to this awesome thing that Ray's talking about with these wonderful tools. I'm super excited to explore. So
Cool. Thank you
great.
for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. See you soon.
All right. All right. Bye.